the fear of failure is probably the one that is one of the biggest one there. Too many negative self-beliefs. Again, this is confidence, not enough belief in yourself, and interference from your inner self. So if you look under that, the subtitle there, the lack of identity after a career break, the shortage of time to do everything, lack of energy or perceived lack of energy to keep fighting a system that is fueling our demise as a species, feels like constantly racing against time, and it's tiring. That's probably one of the biggest and most powerful statements that we've read on our page.
Our top three things were lack of safety. So again, seems to be a theme that's kind of run through from yours, Carol. Again, this fear of kind of repercussions or going against the grain. So again, going against the herd mentality that was in there was a theme that came up quite a bit. The second thing was belonging. So having to hide actually who we really are, having to wear this mask as we enter into the workplace as well. So not knowing, who we can actually be with, what tribe we can actually connect to as well. So by hiding our true selves. And then the last one then was focusing on people and behavior. As opposed to results. So we tend to see in organizations that the bottom line is the result, it's the number, it's etc. But what do we actually focus on in terms of people and the behaviors that are needed in order to create a great environment to actually work in? So they were our top three things.
Our number one was fear of failure, and we talked a little bit about what does that hold you back from actually doing? What does that mean? And how does that affect your behavior, I guess? The second was an inability to manage conflict and confrontation, and that kind of balance between conflict and diplomacy and the behaviors that come from that. And then the third was lack of skills and resources, such as time, knowledge, space to figure things out, and expertise in things like technology and other things like that.
We came up with kind of just three kind of basic. The first one really was the fear, and it was the fear of being sort of freely self-expressed, kind of to the point of shining, or being visionary, and being misunderstood and then judged and criticized for that. And then we had kind of perceptions, like inaccurate perceptions, so that our actions were based on inaccurate perceptions of ourselves, and then inaccurate perceptions of the world or other people, in the outer, so our inner-outer kind of conflict. And then the third one was around vulnerability and the fear of consequences of the actions. So if you were going to risk taking the risk, you were going to have to deal with the consequences, and it was that was just really fear of having to deal with the consequences of an action that might be criticised and judged. So much.
Do you think, Eileen, that could tie into some of the conflict as well, that fear of conflict or fear of, if that vulnerability or there's consequences to being vulnerable, that then not being able to deal with that or face that? Or was that just...
Yeah, but we didn't kind of move into that point, but I can certainly see how that would. But I think a lot of it seemed to be the inner-outer conflict, between the inner conflict of your own perceptions and the outer conflict of how it was being perceived. And then that led, so the vulnerability might be more personal experience, but if it arrives in conflict, then you'll get the actual back.
I'm loving what I'm hearing. I think this ties into it very much. Our first statement was the lack of clarity of identity and action in everyday working life. And this tied into a conversation we had over the conflict between the words toxic masculinity and divine femininity. We had a conversation about what that means, and I think we were using these terms. People from our room can share, if more expansively, to think of this as an expansive understanding of the constriction and expansiveness, and the inner and the outer, and all of these seemingly opposing ways of being. as well as talking about the actual, some of the more dreadful oppression and consequences of systemic systems. And thirdly, coming from that, maybe that's the heart of it is the lack of self-esteem, with a solution to create a braver and more connected environment.
Super. Great to see, well, positive and negative. It's great to see there's alignment across the different breakouts, but it's also quite shocking to see that one of the very top areas is the whole area of fear and fear of failure. So we have a lot of work to do, and great to get the inputs as well on some of the solutions that people think, and community being one of them, and building a safe, secure environment for people to be their true selves. So thank you all for the sharing.